Sarah, perhaps the most talked about aspect, at least in the Twitter sphere, from Lamar Jackson's first press conference since, of course, the Buffalo loss, was what he had to say about his former teammate. Not former NFL teammate, but former college teammate at the University of Louisville. That's Jaire Alexander, and he was just recently released pretty in big fashion, at least in terms of the amount of publicity this move received by the Green Bay Packers within the last week or so. And then Josina Anderson, Sarah, came out later that week and said, hey, there were 6 teams that immediately inquired about Jaire Alexander's services. Up until this point, it's been a guessing game as to whether or not the Ravens were one of them. We'll get to that in just a second. First, Lamar, a classic exchange with a reporter on the Jaire Alexander rumors and a message for his front office.
Cornerback available. Have you gotten a chance?
Go get him, Eric. I love all our corners, don't get me wrong, but go get him, Eric.
Have you gotten a chance to talk to Jaire about coming here?
Yeah, I hit him up, but you don't know. You never know with Jaire. That's my boy, man.
You already know, Sarah, this one got plenty of run on social media.
Lamar is 1,000% pouring fuel on a fire that's been going on for several months, because this marriage makes too much sense. Not only does Lamar pour some fuel on that fire, and I'm glad he did, but Bobby, a new tweet that the Ravens just put out at 12:52, which was 8 minutes ago, has people wondering what this is all about. But they said right up here, their own official account said, sliding to the Ravens, ... with a demon purple emoji. So everybody's wondering, including Zach right here, the first person that comes up in my comments is question mark, exclamation point, and a GIF of Jaire Alexander. So when I tell you that there is fire all over this potential marriage, and maybe the Ravens aren't referring to it at all, but given Lamar's comments yesterday that we just played, given what John Harbaugh said, that it wasn't an or thing, but an and thing, he likes his players and they're going to be looking at the free agent market. It just makes too much sense for the Ravens to try to make this happen. And it happens. Do you want to say something?
Wow, this is notable, right? This is awfully notable. I'm glad you were scrolling through your timeline. We both tend to do that just to make sure that we're giving you the most fresh content, up-to-date content as possible. But yeah, if you're just tuning in, this is pretty notable. You hate to make immediately the connection, which I think is what you were alluding to, right? You want to kind of be careful just in terms of how cryptic this is, but we're a day removed from it dominating the internet. It's certainly leaked into today. Everybody's talking about it right now in the Twitter sphere, and the Ravens could be leaning into that, or they could not be.
Oh, hold on a second. They just put up a new. Shut up. They just signed him. Bring it up. Bring it up.
Are you serious?
They just signed him up here.
Yes, they did. Jaire Alexander.
I got you. Here we go.
Unbelievable.
Share screen. I got it right here. Boom. There he is. Signing an official Ravens contract. He's in the signing room that all free agents, that all rookies go into. You know, for them to put out a tweet like that, sliding to the Ravens, that something was coming a few minutes later. It wasn't crazy of us to think, wait, is Jaire in the house? Indeed, he is. Look at him. Look at him. He's got his arms around Lamar Jackson, Eric DeCosta. Eric DeCosta is beaming in this picture, by the way, for the audio-only folks. And he's just like, what's up? Bring a Super Bowl to the Ravens. If this man can stay healthy, this is a massive move. And Bobby, how often do you actually have Lamar Jackson in that signing room? This never happens. And maybe it's because he's at mandatory minicamp. Maybe it's because just yesterday he was saying, make it happen, EDC. When Lamar Jackson speaks, EDC listens.
Well, wow. Talk about out of left field on this one. Let's give a little bit of context to this in terms of how we just arrived at this ultimate destination. First of all, that Super Bowl or bust window, that window of opportunity that the Ravens are in right now, is that not understood and felt by all? that are remotely involved with this organization, the sense of urgency is real. The Ravens understand that. Eric DeCosta and his front office understand that. Lamar, of course, understands that. You wonder if he had a little bit of an inkling yesterday prior to his press conference that led him to have a little fun with it. Like we just shared. We literally just shared that clip. Go get him, Eric. Well, guess what? Your general manager listened. Jaire Alexander, it's breaking news, folks. Jaire Alexander is a Baltimore Raven, a cornerback that was just recently released by the Green Bay Packers. The knock on him is his availability or lack thereof over the last couple years. He has not been available. But when he is, Sarah, we are talking about a player that perhaps is one of the most, if not the top cover corners in the entire league. I would have to think that at this point, Jaire's ready to chase a trophy. He's ready to reunite with his quarterback from college. He's ready to prove it, maybe not to himself, but to the rest of the league, that he can sustain health. We'll see what the numbers are in just a bit. I'm sure he's open to the idea of taking part in a positionless defense that we know that Zach Orr wants to continue to execute in Baltimore. And now, most importantly, the Ravens have a three-headed monster at corner with Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey, and the newly signed Jaire Alexander. Here he is with his former teammate. Lamar was the first. Of course he is. The first to greet Jaire in the signing room. He's going to go take that Sharpie and sign the wall where everybody does as new Ravens.
I don't got a number right
wow.
now.
This is something there.
For the audio only, we are pulling up video right now. Bobby's kind of describing it. Comes into the signing room. Huge hug between these two. Lamar's like, yeah, go sign right here. This is your moment. Look at that. Man. And remember yesterday, Lamar was asked, he's like, did you hit up Jaire? Did you hit him up? He's like, yeah, I hit him up. Here we go. Here's another video here. The three of them laughing right here.
Look at Eric.
Look at Eric. His face is like, he's just so giddy. But so was Lamar and so was Jaire, though. Hold on. There's more. The Ravens account is just putting it up nonstop. I don't know what he's saying right there. Let's see if we can. Hold on, let me do this again.
Yo, this Jaire here. I'm excited to be a part of the Ravens slot, baby. Let's get to this money.
Yeah.
Yo, this
Yep.
here.
I'd have to think that in terms of Jaire and his camp, can you find a more willing participant? This happened quickly.
Very quickly.
And what I was mentioning earlier on, and we didn't even have a chance to get there because of the breaking fashion of this, was this. Jeff Zarebek of The Athletic, Ravens Insider, tweeted about what we just discussed at the top of this segment, which were Lamar's comments yesterday on the Jaire Alexander rumors. You know what he said. I love all of our corners, but go get him, Eric. And he also mentioned, as you already said, that he hit him up as well. So Nathan says, hey, Jeff, in his mentions, have you heard any rumblings or rumors about the possible interest in Jaire? Josina Anderson said there were 6 teams who reached out. Any idea if the Ravens were one of them? Jeff writes back, yes. Yes, they were one of them. And Sarah, that certainly has lived to be true. Here he is, Jaire Alexander, your newest Baltimore Ravens. Sarah, there is a secondary now in Baltimore that allows Marlon Humphrey to do what he does best, inside as a slot corner, that allows Nate Wiggins to continue to build off of what he put on tape his rookie season. And should Jaire Alexander stay healthy, that dude's going to be an outside threat for them. And we haven't even mentioned the likes of Chido Awuzie, their free agency acquisition, and Brandon Stevens' replacement. At least on paper it was. We haven't even mentioned TJ Tampa. We haven't even mentioned their 2 rookies on day 3, and Robert Longerbeam and Bilal Cohn. It is starting to get jam-packed. And now that whole thin at safety thing, that thin at safety reality with Ardarius Washington being down, it stings a little less at the moment.
Absolutely. We talked about this yesterday, Bobby. We said that they needed to sign somebody in the secondary, and maybe they could still go out and get a safety. But this is a premier talent at cornerback. And while we are here, we will continue to watch Twitter. If any of you guys see it, we want to hear what the terms of the deal are. But this is a premier talent. Lamar Jackson knows that because he went up in practice against him while they were at Louisville together. And so this really opens things up. The downside of Jaire Alexander is obviously his injury history. I think both the last 2 years, he hasn't played more than 7 games. Okay, so that's why I am interested to see what this contract looks like. Is this a 1-year deal? Is this a long-term deal? Is this, hey, you're not even putting much, there's not much risk here because the money isn't too bad. So I'm sure that will come up over the next however minutes we're sitting here to know what they're paying. But between Cheeto and Jaire, obviously, if they do have some injuries in there, they don't need to play as many snaps, right? They don't need that. The Ravens have so many guys that they can rotate. And to your point, this really opens things up with Marlon Humphrey. If Cheeto isn't, feeling well, there's Jaire. If Jaire's not feeling well, then you can bring in Cheeto. And so anytime somebody's feeling even the least bit of strain on a muscle or whatever, they can rest them. They can rest them because now they have depth. You can put Marlon in the slot now. If you get another safety, you can play with Derek Hamilton a little bit in the slot, a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage too. Kyle Hamilton there in the slot. And so it just gives you so much depth. And so you'd hope between all these corners, you'll have enough healthy at the same time that things will pan out well. But this, before we even knew that they signed, we said this is a marriage that is just made to happen. There's just so much good behind it. And the Ravens are clearly in a win now mode. They're trying to shore up every single potential weakness to go on this run.
How's that for a little bit of breaking news for you on this Wednesday mid-live stream? Jaire Alexander's a Baltimore Raven if you're just tuning in. And my, oh my, the Ravens teased us a little bit, didn't they, prior to this?
They sure did.
With a little tweet that came in the form of this right here, sliding to the Ravens with the purple devilish emoji. And then, of course, the content started pouring in. But all that matters now is that these three were together, and Jaire has gone pen to paper, your newest Baltimore Ravens. So,
and Bobby, wouldn't you agree that this pushes Cheeto Bay to CB4?
Yeah. I mean, if TJ Tampa wants to make a play at that throughout summer, let's open that competition up. But certainly on paper, given Cheeto's experience and the familiarity that the Ravens have with him based on his AFC North past and Cincy, you'd have to think that that'd be the case. And hey, again, can't stress it enough that Jaire's setback in recent years has been his health. As we've mentioned a couple times now, he's played more than 7 games in a season just once over the last 4 seasons. So he's got to get that shored up. But he clearly was an interested party on the receiving end here and got to Baltimore in a hurry. It's only been about a week, a little over a week since Green Bay released him. And now he's a Raven. So this is the reality. Eric DeCosta continues, Sarah, in recent seasons to cook and understand the sense of urgency that they're in a win now mode. And this is temporary. And this window is here. We've mentioned
Bobby, the money's in. Now. The money's in. It's a good deal.
Yeah. I'll pull it up right now. I got you.
Oh, you got it already?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
All right. Jeremy Fowler. Here we go. Let me blow it up. New Ravens cornerback Jaire Alexander is signing for $6 million in total. There could be some incentives in there then. Okay. I don't know if that's the base deal. Chance to reestablish his value on a 1-year deal. Let me tell you why this is good for Jaire and the Ravens. We know why it's good for the Ravens. You just got more depth. You got a guy that your quarterback loved. You just made your franchise quarterback even happier. You've got an outside guy. Now you can play with Marlon Humphrey in and out. We know why it's good for the Ravens. Here's why it's good for Jaire. He has had 2 injury-ridden seasons. And the Packers were reportedly trying to sign him nonstop, as you pointed out. Jeff Zrebeck saying the Ravens were one of those teams. Ravens stayed patient. for whatever they were trying to ask for, didn't have to pay anything, and won't have to give up a comp pick because he was cut. Plus, it's after the comp pick deadline. And so Jaire clearly didn't have a market despite his premier talent. So you come into Baltimore for a year on a championship team where they can protect your body a little bit. If you don't have to put things on the line. If you're feeling sore, if you feel like something's tight, you don't have to push a hamstring or whatever. You can be on a team that's going to be on prime time. You can be on a team that's in the playoffs. You're going to be on a team that's playing almost all the playoff teams from last year. You can put the league on notice, Jaire Alexander, with a healthy season and playing at a top level like you've been doing, and say to the league, now I want to get paid. I get why you didn't pay me after those 2 years in 23 and 24, but now with a potential championship run on my back and I stayed healthy, now I can turn this into a big deal. That's good for Jaire. A 1 year, $6 million deal for the Ravens? Yeah, we'll take that. EDC's cooking.
The DaCosta slander's got to stop. If there's slander out there, make it stop, because he's been pushing all the right buttons. And here you have it. Again, the second piece of breaking news, as Sarah just noted, it's a 1 year, $6 million deal with the Ravens for cornerback Jaire Alexander that puts their secondary in a position, Sarah, to start just a litany of former first-round picks. I mean, we're talking about Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Jaire Alexander, Kyle Hamilton, and Malachi Starks. Every single one of those players, a former first-round pick. And all but Wiggins and Malachi, second year and rookie, respectively, have earned all-pro honor. So a lot of merchandise, but a lot of resume boosting among all of them. A lot of hardware, I should say, is what I was looking for. So that's your breaking news. And breaking news, is it ever? Goodness.
Wow.
Should we get back to Super Chats?
Well, what's funny, Bobby, yes, we get them started. What's funny is we started the opening topic of how the Ravens offense is even looking more scary, given Lamar and his immediate chemistry with DeAndre Hopkins. And now on the second half of the show, they just bolstered their secondary, which was absolutely needed, but it wasn't with some Joe Schmo, okay? Last year, maybe a little bit after this time, the Ravens were signing Eddie Jackson right to the secondary. I mean, Jaire Alexander is another level, especially if he can stay healthy. If he stays healthy, now the defense is starting to hit that scary mode.
Super Chats, DreDog679 says, hashtag Sarah Sundays. This was well before the Jaire news just dropped. I see you play with some New Zealand coins, Sarah, for you.
Marina Wanau. Heart emoji, purple heart emoji. Hope everyone's having a good Thursday. Alofa Flock family.
Hope you guys are having, or we're having a good Wednesday. Hopefully you out in New Zealand are having a good Thursday.
There you go.
Adam Legend writes, y'all should check out Mina Kimes' top 10 offenses video. She has a great analogy for the differences between the Roman and Monken offense. Ravens are number one, by the way, which is certainly not a surprise. Appreciate you on the tip there, Adam. Oh, let's see. This is a new one. Log JR, Log Jr. or Log JR 50 with a $50 super chat that I'm going with as salmon colored.
Somebody in the chat said magenta, and I pulled that up, and it really is magenta. I'll show it in just a second. He says, I need Jaire Alexander on the Ravens. Keep Marlon in the slot. Well, you got it. You got it.
Yeah, this must have been right at the start of our Jaire Alexander segment. That's what's so funny about this news, Sarah, that we were kind of late to getting to Jaire because we had so much to discuss, that the news dropped almost perfectly when we transition topics. Like, think about that. So
it's magenta. Look at that.
Well, which one?
The one to the left. It's a little bit deeper, but it's magenta.
Far left?
Far left. You could even go far right. That's magenta.
It's, if anything, it's closer to far right, which I think is very similar to what you had on that second square on the left-hand side on the previous one. But we're not going to harp on this. Thank you to Log for a 50 spot. I have a feeling that as we start to scroll here, since you and I have been so focused on getting everybody caught up to speed on Jaire, that we've missed a lot of runs that's been happening here. So let's figure out what's coming up next. Jang is a channel member and says, Bobby, I was actually encouraging people to meet up at PHP's tailgate. I think that's what I was referring to, right? The Detroit-Baltimore game, right? Monday Night Football, Jang. I think we're on the same page. Thank you for the clarification in Super Chat. Wildlife Wale, Sarah, is chiming in on the color scheme.
Wildlife is with you. It's salmon with 3 exclamation points.
And one note from Jeff, it's 1 year, $4 million for Jaire, could be worth up to $6 million. So that's just sort of
keeps getting better.
The nuance.
Which we knew because when we read Jeremy Fowler's, he said in total $6 million. So I was like, okay, that's incentives. What's the base? And the base is $4 million.
Correct. The agent is giving it to the national reporter, and they want it to look as good as it can. Well, guess what? The Ravens are making it look even better now.
That's what you call a steal, Bobby.
Yeah.
$4 million for who will probably start at corner a few times, depending on, if they put out 3 corners.
Wow.
Okay. And if he gets injured, it's $4 million.